If your idea of community is just cramming a bunch of people into a Slack group and hoping for the best, it's probably going to fail. But Abby Pantano built something different, a curated ecosystem that actually helps purpose-driven founders grow, thrive, and stay in it for the long haul. In this episode, we go deep into how she took a local co-working space and turned it into a high-touch, high-trust community without chasing hypergrowth. By the end of this episode, you'll learn how to design a community with real intention, how to scale your community without actually losing its soul, and the 5 scorecards that Abby uses to help founders build sustainable, values-aligned businesses. Over the last couple of years, communities have really flourished. Post-COVID, we found a lot of value in communities, and especially in the impact community. What I really love about the Impact Collab is kind of like how you're structured. So I wonder if you can talk me through the structure of the community and kind of how it runs.
Yeah, sure. So essentially, the Impact Collab is an ecosystem of support for impact-led founders. And so what does that mean? If we kind of look at this as a Venn diagram with 2 circles, kind of overlapping in the middle, on one side, we have the ecosystem of experts. And so where that comes from is my background is in marketing and partnerships for global retail brands. And I worked for the world's biggest eyewear manufacturer, Luxottica, for 7 years, right? And I remember there was one point I went to my manager and said, I want to learn more about SEO. And she goes, oh, well, go speak to John. John's one job is SEO. And I was like, how amazing to have this depth, this kind of depth of knowledge that exists under this one roof, right? I can go speak to John about SEO. I can speak to Judy about Google Analytics, right? And once you go and set up a business, you're suddenly like, oh man, I've lost this diversity of thought, of experience, of specialty. And so I thought, well, what if we were to take that same approach? I had been in some other communities where some of them turned into a bit of a community of coaches, a community of marketers. I wanted to make sure that we had true diversity of thought, of experience. And so I essentially brought in the ecosystem. So exactly the same as if you were working in a large corporate, we have, a speaking coach, we have the SEO, the meta ads, funnels, website design, what have you. And once I have someone who's in that specialization, I don't bring anyone else in. So we have a wait list of people who are like, I'd love to join. And we go, well, when we have space or if we open up another chapter, we'll let you know. The people that are in there are tried or trusted, and we value their opinion, and they are the go-to for that specific area. So that's one side of the Venn diagram. On the other side of the Venn diagram are the impact orgs. So we call impact orgs essentially organizations who are contributing to the UN global goals for sustainable development. So we do have some organizations who are both experts and they are in the impact space, and they sit in that tiny little space in the middle. We are collaborators. But yeah, it's essentially designed so we know that quite a few of our founders who are passionate about impact were like, well, what should I be doing? Should I be going over and digging a well in Uganda? And we're like, no, the worst thing for you to do is to go and dig a well. What we need to do is to support those community leaders who are doing the work in their community that can be sustainable, that they know what their community needs. And we actually need to close the skills gap that exists for them. I keep on going back to the SEO, but we'll use it for this example. If that person is looking to build more wells over in their communities, being able to set up a website and have SEO so they can find more funders, so they can actually scale their impact. And our goal is actually to help build more social enterprises. So I'm really big, passionate believer in the social enterprise movement and being able to self-sustain. And so while we do have not-for-profits in our community, our goal is to connect them up to the business services so they can actually find ways to be able to prop themselves up, to not have to rely on philanthropic funding, as wonderful as that is. But we want them to be able to make an impact in the long term. And in order to do that, being able to have a consistent, reliable funding arm that isn't going to change with policy, it isn't going to change with the government, is really important so they can keep on doing the work rather than them leaving and somebody having to start all the way over again.
I really like that your community has this like built-in curation to say, hey, if you need help with X, you don't need to look for the thousands of people that are offering that service. Like we have that in-house. And it totally makes sense that you want to maybe not completely, but at least get folks somewhat off of the philanthropic, the donation hamster wheel, because once that money runs out, they're kind of starting back over from scratch, and they're not really building something that compounds on itself.
Just one note I want to kind of touch on around the having like that in-house support. I think one piece, and it's something that I work with the founders, is we have the people who are within the community. They donate 4 hours per year to small group mentoring sessions where people can come along, bring along their challenges, and get tailored advice based on where they're at. However, one thing that kind of we work with our founders on is making sure that they don't just trust the first thing that's put in front of them. So I could have a really wonderful meta ads person that has done amazing things for me. For want of a better, because I would like to extract myself from Meta, but who might be doing amazing things for me. And, if Mark comes along and goes, oh, well, I've got a product and maybe I'll use that person for Meta, it's not to say that they're going to necessarily be the perfect fit. I think it's always really important for people to have choice. That whole concept, how do we turn mountains into molehills, is if sometimes it's just a conversation. It's a matter of going, oh my God, I cannot get past this one little point. And it's about relationship building. So you can build trust. But I guess something I emphasize is going, come, learn, collaborate, but don't take everything at face value and go, you are going to be the perfect fit for me. Make sure that you have comparison points to make sure it's the right fit for you, your personality, and your business.
Quick break in the episode to tell you that if you are building an impact-driven community, I've put together a free toolkit that I think you'll love, and it'll help you skip steps 1 through like 20. It's called Community Compass, and it brings together everything I've learned from interviews, breakdowns, and real-world experience, all focused on what actually makes impact communities work. You can get free access to the toolkit at the link in the description below. And now back to the episode. Is there a sort of through line? So you have all of these points of support, whether it's SEO or paid advertising strategy or organic content or whatever it may be. But is there an additional layer of support to say, hey, you're at this stage, you need to get to this stage, and we're going to kind of curate, not a prescription, but like a support plan for you? What does that look like?
Great question. Great question. So up until now, it's been a choose your adventure. Every month, we would have 5 small group mentoring sessions, which is the expert pods I mentioned, where people go, maybe I need visibility support, maybe I need product design support, maybe I need help with my impact or my systems or my well-being. We have well-being pods. But in the moment, and I'm just finalizing the visibility scorecard, but I'm essentially building a series of 5 scorecards, which the pinnacle being a thriving founder. If you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. Right? Because I think there's some communities that exist, impact communities, which are all about scale, and they're really important. It's wonderful. But I don't think that makes the happiest founders. I'm here to make the happiest founders who are like, I could just keep on doing this forever because I'm making a difference that I'm proud of. I'm 80% of my time I'm spending on things that I love. I take 2 weeks of leave, or sorry, 2 months of leave a year. It's like, what are the pinnacle pieces? I make a difference I'm proud of. So essentially, I've built in tandem with our community and experts 5 scorecards. So the first one around product, I've designed a product that will help me make enough money. So as the scaling capacity to make enough money. And a key point of that being, what is enough? We know in Sydney, for example, Gadigal country, that $90,000 is like a bare minimum to be able to like live a little bit comfortably. It's tight, but it's, you're good, right? So we have that as like a benchmark on what is enough rather than being like, I want the most money, and working from there. We have a scorecard we're building out, which is around visibility. So I work with my dream clients and being able to understand who is your dream client, because they have to share your value system or not be too disaligned, but they also have to be able to afford your product, which is some place that we sometimes get lost in impact land. And how am I going to build an ecosystem that supports my goals there? Systems, as I was mentioning, I love the way that I work. Can you take 2 weeks or 8 weeks? I keep on saying that 8 weeks off per year and not have the business fall over? Can you spend, all the time that you have doing things you love, whether it's public speaking or going out and actually creating partnerships, doing the things that really move the needle and make an impact that only you can do? Like, what is your superpower and how can you sit in that? And so let's see, we also have visibility, which is I work with my dream clients, impact, which is I make a difference I'm proud of. And then the last one is inner development. So I have the skills and the mindset to thrive, which is designed around the inner development goals principles, which were created by the UN after they realized that we've set our 17 goals. Why aren't they being mobilized? And then realizing that actually, we need to put on our own oxygen mask before we help others. So they found 5 pillars around how can we get these oxygen masks on everyone so they can go out and make sustainable change, right? So the scorecards are being designed as open source, free access. Anyone who wants to take it and wants to identify what their where the gaps might exist. Once they've taken that scorecard, we then make recommendations going, if you're really needing to get things caught up, going on a sprint. We'll be hosting sprints around visibility or product design. And then otherwise throughout the year, when we host different expert pods going, hey, we've noticed that you have been struggling with automation. We've got an automation expert pod coming out. So it can either be individual sessions or be like, hey, know what? Let's like lock out 2 weeks and just dig in. And here's some masterclasses. Here's a couple of templates. So the only time that I really do masterclasses, to be honest, is through then, because otherwise I kind of don't like the masterclass because I don't believe in one size fits all. I believe in coming to people where they're at. But if it's like, just give me the bare bones, I need the basics to get up here, and then we can customize along the journey.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the way that you are growing this. I know you're growing it intentionally. There is, if I'm not mistaken, a cap on the amount of people that are about how big this community can be. But I also know that I'm pretty sure you don't have a website. And
I do have a website now.
You do now.
I got one during our virtual co-working session. I've got a minimum viable website. It's not perfect, but it's up.
Well, up until now, you say there was a digital presence wasn't like a huge priority for you. I'm curious about how you have gone about growth in the past. And I know a lot of people obsess over hyper growth and scaling really quickly. I'm curious just how you have approached that for this community.
Yeah, sure. So the Impact Collab started as a co-working space, Seed Spaces, which is on Gadigal country in the inner west of Sydney. And it was a destination for impact-led founders to come together, connect. And that was where I originally was playing with skill sharing and accountability and goal setting and, deep work sessions. COVID gave me the challenge and opportunity to turn it into a digital experience. So while our members were at home, they were getting these different experiences. And what happened was I found that as I was getting these pieces nailed, they were inviting their friends in and going, you need to come, you need to get involved in this. And so it really took a life of its own from there up until the point where even once we finished with COVID and I went, do you know what? If I don't have to pay $30,000 a month in rent, I think I won't. And so I sold it to my co-founder. And so, but really, I have grown. I sold the website and all. That's why for the last 3 years, it's been 3 years now. I haven't had a website, and it's been growing because it's grown through referrals. And good people tend to refer good people who are a good fit for the community. So I think we've built a really supportive, beautiful, engaged, kind community. I've seen some communities that grow so fast that you lose maybe some intentionality, because it's hard if you've got more than, if you're working in an office and there's say 10 people in your office and, you've got an extra 2 here each week, or you introduce yourself, you go, hey, how's it going? It's nice to meet you. What are you doing here? Like, fill me in. The day that your office grows and suddenly there's 10 more people in the lunchroom, you go, I can't introduce myself to this many people, right? And so I could have sped this up and probably made it a bit more financially lucrative for myself if I was open to speeding that up. But I've really enjoyed the intentionality, and I know that each one of the members, when they come in and they introduce themselves, that there'll be a collective of the members who are like, hey, welcome. Oh, it's so nice to meet you. I'd love to have a chat. It's great to have you here. I don't think we would have that same experience. So I run free month trials for people to come in, experience that love and that holding and support, and see if that's something that they want to lean into. And usually I would say that 90% of the people who come in and trial the membership for a month are like, oh, this is different. This is cool. So and I think now that we've really built such a beautiful nucleus, I am now going, okay, I'll have a website, but I still have a slow process for onboarding and bringing people in, because like, what is a community? It's to be held, it's to be supported, it's to be seen, and to have a space where your voice can be heard. And if you feel like you're just a number, it's really hard to participate in that collaboration and that experience.
Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot that the communities that optimize for new user acquisition are often the ones that flame out, for lack of a better word. And the communities that optimize for retention and existing user experience are the ones that have the most longevity.
Yeah, that's been my experience too.
So what are you going to do when you hit the cap?
Yeah, so I have a cap of 150 in the community, which is based on Dunbar's number, which is the theory that we can only authentically know 150 people in one time before It comes back to the theory around tribes. I had that with tribes. I found that once they hit 150, they started to splinter. And the reason why I've set that cap is because I think there's two different types of community. One, which is thought leadership, and it's disseminating out to all the disciples. For me, I call myself a community architect. My job is to create the right spaces, put the right people in those rooms, and let the magic happen. And to be honest, it's probably more so for myself than it is for the community, where I'm like, this is the amount of people I feel I have the capacity to show up for meaningfully, because I do like to have a human touch. I want to run onboarding sessions. I want to be able to have calls to be able to go, how are we going and how can we fine tune this experience? The goal is basically, as we come in close to that cap, we're currently sitting at 85. But once we hit that cap, I will, first of all, I'm looking at setting this up as a social enterprise franchise. And so what I mean by that is I don't want to go and set up a community in Europe, France, or UK, because I don't know that market. It's not authentic. It doesn't make sense for someone who's in Australia to set up a UK community. So I'll be going out to find community builders who are passionate about impact, who are like, I'm a great architect and I want to go out and meet people, and I'm happy to host spaces to then collaborate with them and go, well, I want to help you build an impact collab in your market. And what does that look like? What are the kind of the things that stay rigid, and what are the things that are movable within? And I guess help prevent reinventing the wheel. If I'm like, this works, if this is good, this is solid, how can we make this work in another area? Because ultimately, for me, it's like, what is enough? And for me, honestly, $90,000 a year, I'm happy. That's great. I don't need a whole bunch of money. I just need enough. But if I can then focus on people in their local market earning money and keeping money in that market as well, like, that makes sense to me, and that's in alignment with my values and how I want to be able to kind of see the world of business show up. So the plan is different chapters in different markets with different time zones, because I don't have people. I do have one person in Canada who is just so keen that I was like, oh, she's like, it's fine, it's late for me, but I really want to come. I was like, okay, that's fine. But as a rule, I don't invite people from other markets to join the existing chapter, because it's not in alignment with the systems pillar of I love the way I work. I don't want people joining at 9 p.m., 5 a.m., 2 a.m., unless they're like, Katie's like, I'm a night owl. I was like, okay, well, I can't, I'm not going to enforce my version of what work-life balance is on you if that's what you want. But yeah, so I'm building a whole wait list of people, though, who are in other markets who are like, either want to be part of that like origin story for their market, or are like, let me know once you've got your person.
Yeah. Well, and that member from Canada could be your pilot.
Totally. Yeah. Katie's awesome.
I wanted to switch gears a little bit. We've talked a lot about the business, which is amazing, but I kind of wanted to talk about Abby, the founder. This has been years in the making. I wanted to talk about any big challenges that stick out to you along the way, that you kind of had to work through, that you think might resonate with others.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think certainly intense pivots around having an in-person experience and then having COVID and going, okay, I could just watch this kind of fade into oblivion or leave myself in the hands of fate, or I could just throw myself out there and fail forward and fail fast. And so I think definitely going on that journey of, I actually had ended up sharing a reel. I haven't shared many reels, but I did during lockdown because there was no one in the co-working space to judge me. And so I could remove all of that piece. There's the scene in Up where it's little Russell, the scout, and he's like, I can help you cross the street. And he goes, no, I can help you cross the yard. No, I could help you cross your porch. And literally I'm just like, just throwing things out and going, do you know what? The worst I can do is say no. And I think to build a safe nucleus of people where you're like, I'm going to test this and I want you to interact with it, and to be measuring that, I built faster than I ever have before. Another piece that I had, which was around getting support for myself. I was doing everything, and then I found out that I was pregnant. And thank goodness for that 9 months notice that you get to go, you're going to have to get your stuff together. And it was great, because I think that if I hadn't had that hard deadline to go, because I had been on the fence about whether or not I wanted to have kids because of my climate anxiety and going, is this the most sustainable thing that I can do? And then when I got pregnant at 37, I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm going to lean into this. This is my surrender experiment. But it just meant that I had this hard deadline to set up my systems in a way that would work for me to actually like if I'm going to have a kid, I'm going to have a kid. I want to experience this. I'm not planning on having any more. Um, so what I ended up doing was, first of all, I went out to hire a second me, a super twin who could kind of help keep things rolling. And what happened was I actually put out an ad going, I'm looking for someone fully remote, fully digital. It's going to be KPI based. And around like this whole community lead. It's on my LinkedIn if anyone ever wants to see it, because it's, I'm kind of looking back going, oh, I'm so glad I did that. Anyway, so what happened is there are a ton of incredible entrepreneurs and small business owners who are getting their venture off the ground, who are so good in an organization. They're like, I'm going to go and set up something for myself. And they just need some sustainable cash that's coming in. They're not looking for the highest pay. They're just looking for something they can rely upon so they can keep on building out their ventures. I went out looking for one person. I ended up hiring four. I've got four people who work with me and they do 2 hours per week. And honestly, so I have an operations person, I have a community lead who's underneath me, and then also I have a just kind of like my shoe-in if you're like in theater and if you're sick and someone that person goes and goes, I know the lines, and helps with all of the automated things, and a marketing person, and then I have someone who's kind of like another understudy for our co-work days in Sydney, because I used to run all of those, but now I can interact. And so I think realizing that there is affordable help when you're early stage who can come in and help you with the repetitive tasks and optimizing. And if you're a verbal processor like me, having that room to bounce off of. And it's given me this ability to, I was able to really step back for about 2 months. And then after that, slowly come in, but again, not with repetitive tasks. I actually was able to see the forest from the trees. I was like, okay, like, what am I doing with this? Like, if I'm going to come back into this, what's the next stage? And that was where the Thriving Founders scorecard came through. I started doing work on our theory of change with Elaine Hendrick, who's in our community. Started working on our brand, like really nailing our brand strategy and values. Before, I actually couldn't do it because I was in survival stage. I was just trying to get through. So I think like that was definitely one piece that I've come out on the other end going, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful I had that hard deadline, because I love what I'm doing now and I can see myself doing this. I just need to be earning a bit more cash. But I don't feel like I'm working a day in my life. I'm excited for the work that I do. I have full flexibility. As soon as I hit that revenue goal, I'll be laughing, I'll be set.
I really like that direct call out to say there are a lot of impact founders, and I see this a lot in the impact world, I think for a variety of reasons, but a lot of them are working on this really amazing project that is creative and new, but it has a lot of constraints on it. So it's just naturally takes a little bit longer to build. And so they often have this longer runway where their project is a side project or their cash flow is a side project. And I really love that you have found an organic way to integrate those types of folks in that type of situation to work on something that brings in a little bit of cash, but I'm sure is also very aligned to their to their values.
And the concept of the side stable, have you heard the term the side stable? It's like, we don't want a side hustle, I want my side stable. It's like a piece where I can rely on it, it's coming in on the side. And I mean, that was a huge, it was because I found a side stable when I was building Impact Club, and it meant that I wasn't making decisions from a place of fear as well. It let me slow down and really think about intentions and how I want to build this. So I feel like while it's probably, I don't doubt that slowed me down a little bit, because that side stable was 2 days a week. And so I lost 40% of my week at the time. I think that my business is better for it, because I could have pace and be like, I'm building this for my lifetime, and building something for my lifetime takes time. So I'm going to give myself that space and just make sure. And the key with the side stable was that it wasn't this really senior role where I was like, all of my brain power was going into it. It was actually an admin role. And I was like, I'm just going to pump that out. And when I finish with that work, I can switch my brain off and I can put that energy elsewhere.
Yeah, totally. You had mentioned previously that you had found out you got pregnant and the family was expanding. How has having a kid changed your perspective on building a business and where your priorities are, and like how has having a child changed your perspective on all this?
Look, it's a good question. I think up until that point, I remember when I owned the co-working space, right? And I had someone who came in, it was 3 founders, and we had someone who came in to talk about what is the future of seed spaces. Where are we going here? And, goes to the first person. He's like, I want to have a seed spaces in all of these major cities. And the next one's like, I want to have an investment fund, and we're going to choose different organizations to invest in. And it got to me and I was like, I want to spend 3 months of the year overseas. I want to work like 3 days a week. I want to spend 3 months of the year overseas. And yeah, and I want to be able to go out and do public speaking. That's something that's been like on my list of what I'd like to get done. But for me, like living overseas has been like a priority. My community, I like during COVID, my community, not just Impact Collab, but on like my other personal side, really deepened and like the roots really kind of embedded. So home is now Sydney, but I know that because I was born in the US and immigrated to New Zealand when I was 8. That experience as a child to go into another country and be other, even though it is still a westernized country, but to be other was it really shaped a lot of me. And I think probably with Kai, I'm even more determined to make sure that I make that space for him to be able to have that experience to live overseas and to experience being other in different cultures. And what that feeling also is to go in and not be in a familiar place and have that one person come up and go, hey, do you want to come play? And to go, wow, that made such a big difference for me. I want to go and do that, make that difference for someone else. So I don't think that my goals have necessarily changed since having a child, because I knew the balance that I wanted to have from this business. But I think that I probably in the causes that are embedded, I also think about how they embed him. I kind of went on this journey as well of, I'm an inclusive feminist. It's like, everyone comes on the journey, and having a little white boy, and going, how am I going to raise a white man, and how, like, with the same sort of values, and going into, International Women's Day and participating in discussions and going and what it means to be an ally. So I think I get excited when I see the different events that happen and go, I can't wait for Kai to come along and be immersed in like what it is to be a great ally for First Nations people, for refugees and asylum seekers, for women, So it's kind of a long-winded answer, but I think that it's not so much changed my perspective, but it's probably deepened how I see the impact that I'm making and how I might be able to impart that on him.
That's amazing. And I think that is I think one big difference that I see in a lot of impact-driven founders is that they aren't all looking for this behemoth of a business. They are looking to create a lifestyle for themselves that has work integrated into it, but is for their life. I think a lot of people would aspire to that same vision that you have for your life. Do you have any advice for impact driven founders or otherwise who are looking for, I want to build this thing for myself. I'm ambitious and motivated, but I don't want it to kind of take over everything. Is there any advice you'd leave them with?
Yeah, I mean, it's find your community. Find the founders that are building or have built a life that you want to live. And we are the average of the 5 people that we're close to. Intentionally put yourself into that space. It's kind of moving yourself away from proximity into intentional action. Show up to spaces, go to meetups. And there'll be a point where you'll be like, you find your tribe, you find the people that you gel with. You're like, you know what? I want her life, or I want his life. That's cool. And it's amazing how achievable something becomes when you surround yourself by others who are doing exactly that. So, a rising tide also raises all boats. Come into that area where the tide is where you want to be at and watch that lift.
If you like this conversation, I think you would love this one with Katie Osborne. She's building a circular economy business and using in-person events to build a real, tangible community around it. No VC, no hype, just intentional, impactful growth. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.